टेक्नोलॉजी फॉर भारतीय लैंग्वेजेस। इसमें स्कूल, हायर एजुकेशन एंड स्किल से जुड़े हुए लोग यहाँ पर अपेक्षित हैं। पैनल डिस्कशन will cover crucial topics like leverage technology for Bharatiya languages. Number one, role of technology in teaching learning process of Bharatiya languages and in Bharatiya languages as medium of instruction. Technology for testing language proficiency, assessment and evaluation of learning outcomes. और यदि मेरी आवाज़ इस सभागार के बाहर जा रही हो तो जो लोग बाहर हैं वो ऑडिटोरियम के अंदर आने की कृपा करें। May please come inside and be seated. Third point we are going to discuss in this panel discussion is training of Bharatiya language teachers. Fourth is seamless transition from traditional to digital classrooms. And the last point is role of technology in promoting Bharatiya languages centric ecosystem. It will be a roadmap of the next 5 years.
आप सभी का इस तकनीकी सत्र में स्वागत है। मेरा नाम चंदन श्रीवास्तव है और मैं भारतीय भाषा समिति का शैक्षिक समन्वयक हूँ। इस सत्र का थीम है भारतीय भाषाओं के लिए प्रौद्योगिकी, टेक्नोलॉजी फॉर भारतीय लैंग्वेजेस। यह सत्र एक पैनल डिस्कशन है जिसकी अध्यक्षता करने के लिए मैं शिक्षा मंत्रालय के सचिव विद्यालयी शिक्षा और साक्षरता श्री संजय कुमार जी को मंच पर सादर आमंत्रित करता हूँ। सर आप आएँ और अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें। साथ ही मैं आग्रह करता हूँ हमारे तीनों पैनलिस्ट प्रोफेसर पुष्पक भट्टाचार्य, डॉक्टर नोंगमेकम किशोरजीत सिंह तथा मिसेज नताशा जोग से कि वे मंच पर अपना आसन ग्रहण करें। प्लीज़। प्लीज़। जो लोग पीछे बैठे हुए हैं उनसे आग्रह है कि आगे आके बैठ जाएं। आगे की सीट जो खाली हैं उस पे आके बैठें। अब मैं इस सत्र के आमंत्रित पैनलिस्ट से आप सबों का परिचय कराता हूं। हमारे पहले पैनलिस्ट हैं प्रोफेसर पुष्पक भट्टाचार्य, जो IIT बॉम्बे में भगत सिंह रेखी चेयर प्रोफेसर हैं। नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग और मशीन लर्निंग पर इनका गहन शोध है। भारतीय भाषाओं के नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग के क्षेत्र में इन्होंने बहुमूल्य योगदान दिया है, जैसे कि इंडो वर्ड नेट, कॉग्निटिव NLP, लो रिसोर्स MT आदि। प्रोफेसर भट्टाचार्य का कई प्रतिष्ठित संस्थानों में भी जुड़ाव रहा है, जैसे कि फेलो नेशनल एकेडमी ऑफ इंजीनियरिंग, अब्दुल कलाम नेशनल फेलो, अलमनस IIT खड़गपुर, पूर्व निदेशक IIT पटना और पूर्व अध्यक्ष एसोसिएशन ऑफ कंप्यूटेशनल लिंग्विस्टिक्स। सर, आपका इस सत्र में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। हमारे दूसरे पैनलिस्ट हैं डॉक्टर नोंगमेकम किशोरजीत सिंह। ये इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी मणिपुर के कंप्यूटर साइंस एवं इंजीनियरिंग विभाग के अध्यक्ष हैं। इन्होंने मशीन लर्निंग, नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग, कंप्यूटर विजन और इमेज प्रोसेसिंग के क्षेत्र में उल्लेखनीय शोध किया है। ये प्रसिद्ध पुस्तक सी प्रोग्रामिंग के लेखक भी हैं। भारतीय भाषाओं से संबंधित कई प्रोजेक्ट्स को भी इनके द्वारा किया जा रहा है। सर, इस सत्र में आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। हमारे तीसरे पैनलिस्ट हैं मिसेज नताशा जोग, जिनका पब्लिक पॉलिसी, रिस्क एनालिसिस और प्रबंधन के क्षेत्र में लंबा अनुभव है। ये मेटा में पब्लिक पॉलिसी की हेड हैं। मेटा ज्वाइन करने से पहले इन्होंने NDTV के एंकर के तौर पर भी उल्लेखनीय कार्य किया है। वर्तमान में ये CBSE और AICT के साथ मिलकर डिजिटल नागरिक और AVGC XR प्रोग्राम के क्रियान्वयन में अग्रणी भूमिका निभा रही हैं। मैम, आपका भी इस सत्र में बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। अब मैं UGC की ज्वाइंट सेक्रेटरी डॉक्टर अर्चना ठाकुर जी से निवेदन करता हूं कि वे मंच पे आएं और हमारे अध्यक्ष इस सत्र के श्री संजय कुमार जी को पौधा देकर के उनका स्वागत करें। धन्यवाद मैम। मैं स्कूल एजुकेशन के डायरेक्टर श्री JP सिंह जी से निवेदन करता हूं कि वे मंच पे आएं और हमारे पैनलिस्ट प्रोफेसर पुष्पक भट्टाचार्य जी को फूल देकर ये पौधा देकर के उनका स्वागत करें। धन्यवाद सर। अब मैं डायरेक्टर स्कूल एजुकेशन श्री उमेश प्रताप सिंह जी से निवेदन करता हूं कि वे मंच पे आएं और हमारे दूसरे पैनलिस्ट डॉक्टर नोंगमेकम किशोरजीत सिंह जी का पौधा देकर के उनका स्वागत करें। इसी कड़ी में श्री राजकुमार जी उप सचिव स्कूल एजुकेशन को मैं आमंत्रित करता हूं कि वे आकर के हमारी तीसरी पैनलिस्ट मिसेज नताशा जोग का स्वागत करें। धन्यवाद सर। अब इस सत्र के आगे की कार्यवाही के लिए मैं अध्यक्ष महोदय को अनुरोध करता हूं। सर।
Thank you. So, a very warm welcome to all our colleagues who have joined us post-lunch for this session, which is basically on leveraging of technology for Bharatiya language. So, you were part of the morning session when we were talking about this whole idea which culminated, which is going to culminate on the birthday of Kavi Subramaniam Bharati ji on the 11th of December. The running parallel for the 2 days workshop has been is that how are you going to use technology for Bharatiya Bhasha? And I remember mentioning about one of the tools which has been brought out by AICTE, that is Anuvadani. So we have a great panel with us, and they're all coming from very diverse background. Ms. Natasha Jog comes from the side of the private, and she is part of Meta. And of course, Professor Pushpak Bhattacharyya from IIT Mumbai, Bombay, and Dr. N. Kishorjit Singh from IIIT Manipur. So the topics which we have kept broadly for discussion this afternoon is on the role of technology in teaching learning process of Bharatiya languages and in Bharatiya languages as medium of instruction. And this is extremely important, I would say, that in what language are you going to learn? And as the National Education Policy very clearly says that the initial learning should be in the mother tongue of the child. And we discussed about the role of the Bharatiya BHASHA. Then, of course, there is technology for testing language proficiency, assessment and evaluation of learning outcomes. Then how do you use technology to train teachers for Bharatiya language? Because if you're going to reach out to that many number of students in that many number of languages, then we need capacity of our teachers, and we also need teachers in those languages. And role of technology in promoting Bharatiya languages centric ecosystem, and eventually we would try and create a 5 years roadmap. So let me just give you a little bit of a background as I understand as the way and the place where we are standing. If you look at the evolution, and if you actually look at the 6th century BC, I think a lot of fantastic things was happening in 6th century BC. There was Confucius, then Lao Tse in China. In India, we had Buddha, we had Jain, and there was a flowering of something which was taking place. And I would say this was a flowering of intellect or an intellectual outpouring which was taking place in 6th century BC. And I have always wondered that what exactly may have been happening. I think a large number of the books, Upanishads, the part of Vedas, they're all composed between 1000 BC to 600 BC. And I've been reading and somehow it came to my knowledge that this is the time when the fruition of language took place because people started writing. You see, earlier people spoke, but they did not write. And this is the time, 1000 BC to 600 BC, that is a period where people actually started writing. And this language technology, by way of writing, it led to the fruition of intellectual outpouring, which we see in those periods. We see a long period after that. People kept writing by hands. They were writing on all kinds of things. The Chinese invented the paper. Then we come to 1440. 1440, Gutenberg comes out with the idea of making the printing press. And I think 1454 is when he started doing it commercially. This was the beginning of books. And from 1454 onwards, we started an education system which primarily was based on books, and we started reaching out to more and more people. And the last 500 years, we have evolved over printed books. We have reached out to a large section, but we have not reached out to all. And suddenly again, I see that we are on a cusp of a new thing happening to us. Because suddenly, books are going digital. Learning is becoming digital. The way you access has become digital, and technology is enabling it. Where we are going to go after this, I think that remains to be imagined, that remains to be thought. Books are out, we will be doing things digitally. How we are going to respond to it remains the question. In the last 20 years, if you see the way artificial intelligence has evolved, I think machine learning and language recognition, if you see, I think till 2010, Natasha ji will bear me out, it was perhaps not very slow, not very quick, but suddenly it climbs up and by 2020-22, language recognition of machines is almost, it has surpassed that of the average human being. And where it is going to take us, generative artificial intelligence, chat GPT, I'm not quite sure. And we are all, who are part of the education system and the education department, we are all thinking as to what the future roadmap may be. But I'm not very scared, because in the last, if you look at in the past, the way we humans have managed and tackled technology to our advantage, that has not left a cause of concern, though at that particular time, we've been worried. So this will transcend this also. But giving this background, I am going to invite our colleague, Professor Pushpak Bhattacharyya from IIT Bombay, to share his views on how do we leverage technology, and if we have reached out to the last mile using books, maybe using the digital technology, we'll reach out to just about everyone.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thanks to Sanjay ji, my esteemed co-panelists, and many of my very illustrious colleagues in the audience, Professor Sangal, Dr. Murthy, Professor Ganesh. So, to address this question, a bit of personal history is relevant. So, my journey in NLP, and I have always been focused on Indian language processing. Started in IIT Kanpur, learning from Professor Vineet Chaitanya and Professor Rajiv Sangal. Now, our first natural language processing project came from United Nations, and this was called UNL project. It is an interlingua-based machine translation system. Now, there was no statistical NLP at the time. Everything was rule-based. There was no neural NLP at the time. Everything was rule-based. So the rules required one to understand the nitty-gritties of the language and also the task. To give an example, we are part of what is called the Bhashini project, and in that there is a sub-consortium called Ishan, which is translation amongst Northeast languages. Now, if we have to make a translator between, let's say, Manipuri and Nepali, or Manipuri and Hindi, where do you get the data from? Okay, these are low resource situations. So first point of technology concern is indeed creation of data. I will mention four important pieces of work from IIT Bombay, including ours, which really try to address the question of data and resources. So when I looked at the topics for this panel, I thought I will take up the subtopic A and subtopic E. Subtopic A is language teaching learning using technology. Subtopic E is technology for language, a 5-year roadmap. So this will be a personal view, and I think those are important based on my very long journey in natural language processing with Indian language in focus. Now, when Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe called me and said that you have to be a panelist in this summit, and it will be on technology for Indian language. This topic is close to my heart. I readily agreed and thought that we will touch upon some of the developments and the way forward. So from IIT Bombay, let me go in a reverse chronological order. Professor Ganesh is working on the UDAN system, which has very strong foundation of machine learning and a pipeline of OCR, machine translation, and post-editing. So this is a very, very worthwhile pipeline, and there is a stall which demonstrates this technology. This is being used by AICT. It was released by Maharashtra government, and is an important system. Then I would like to talk about Bhashini. We are part of Bhashini, and that is speech-to-speech machine translation system. Speech-to-speech machine translation for education is an extremely important task. We are in dialogue with different engineering colleges in Maharashtra and are alive to the critical need of disseminating technical and scientific knowledge in one's mother tongue. The barrier to understanding these concepts because of language is really tremendous and a real concern. So we have created speech-to-speech machine translation and are discussing with Mumbai High Court and the engineering colleges for its deployment and commercial usage if possible. Professor Preeti Jyoti, my colleague from IIT Bombay, works on code mixing, where code mixing is a way of life. There is this 3-language formula in every state, and people freely navigate from one language to another. An interesting observation I would like to present before you. If we do not restrict people to say that you can use only one language and cannot mix languages, then the level of disfluency, where there is hesitation, repetition of phrases, this is much more if our hands are tied and we cannot use code mixing. So this is a very pertinent problem for the country, and students all over the country use code mixing very freely. And the final resource I would like to mention is Indian language word nets. 18 languages of the country were linked, which is a very, very enriched dictionary of words, their meanings, and their senses, and example words. So then a lot of water has flown under the bridge after that, and everything is now data and neural network based, maybe statistical based. So in my thinking, the steps that should be taken for enabling Indian language technology in the new education policy scenario, where skilling, concept formation, deployment, they are very important. I would like to place the following tasks. One is, we cannot really lose sight of foundations. We have to create high quality dictionaries. We have to have high quality data corpus. We have to have strong machine learning algorithms which are trained using this data. And we have to train people in the techniques of language technology. So people, data, resources, model, and infrastructure, these are the 5 things which apply to any domain, education included. Now, I must emphasize the unique place and importance of education. You cannot compare this with other domains like agriculture, tourism, judiciary. Why? Because education is man-making. We make people. And when people have strong concepts, strong foundations, high level of skill, they contribute to nation development. And language technology is definitely a very important vehicle for education. And we have to do this. I would like to end with the observation on large language models. Our secretary mentioned ChatGPT. You know, a large paradigm shift is happening in the area of language. The ChatGPT answers questions, and that capability is mind-boggling. Now, this should happen in Indian languages, and if efforts are on to create Indian language, large language models, and fine-tuning them, using adapter, using prompting. These are recent techniques which we also have to add to. I have seen students interacting with ChatGPT for answering their questions. However, there is a bit of a danger here. We have seen that ChatGPT can hallucinate. It can give misinformation. ChatGPT can have bias. So those problems need to be solved. So in summary, I would like to say that this 5-pronged attack on data, model, infrastructure, and corpus and machine learning models, plus being able to leverage the technique of large language model is the way forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Pushpak, for giving us basically an outline of the kind of technological interventions which are already in the offing and which have taken place. But I mean, I would put it like being part of the Secretary of School Education. I think one of our challenges been, and which we would want technology to address in the limited sense, is that how do you make opportunity language agnostic? And I think this is very pertinent for us in India, where a large number of people feel that English is aspirational, not because it's a language, but then also because people feel that it opens up windows which other languages do not do that. So, if the national education policy is going to talk about Bharatiya Bhasha, then Bharatiya Bhasha must make everything available locally to every student. And I think this is where machine-to-machine translation systems become very important. NCRT, traditionally, they've been making books and learning content in English, Hindi, and Urdu. This is what they've been doing historically. But this time the mandate is very clear. This time the mandate is that you have to bring out all the content in at least 22 languages which are part of the Schedule 8. Can I use technology for that to be able to create similar kind of learning content? This is one of the challenges we are facing as of now, and we are looking, how do I leverage technology to be able to do that? And also make people comfortable so much in their own language that conversing in any other language just becomes a language, rather than one being more aspirational than the other. I would welcome now Natasha ji, who's the head of public policy at Meta, to share her views with us.
And how we need to rely on languages in that there is no other way. And I think the reason for that is that language is our culture, it is our identity and really lifeline of the world. Our languages are not just our mother tongue, they are they say that the child first thinks and then it is the mother tongue and then goes on to translate it. Also where so much of our cultural and intellectual histories are recorded, language of governance, language of communication, and language of education, of course. I think Sir touched upon a very important point, which is that today we mobile devices, what have you. And it is more important now than ever to make sure that everyone has multilingual content, that they are able to access all the information or the knowledge in their chosen language. And there's absolutely, I think all of us are in agreement with that. But like Professor Bhattacharyya said, high quality translation tools frankly haven't existed for the longest time for hundreds of languages, and billions of people across the world have not had access to digital content, which has not allowed them to participate fully and authentically in conversations online in their preferred or in native languages. I want to talk a little bit about what we've done to that, to the point again, talking about opportunity and that technology can leverage, which is, and I think Professor Bhattacharyya is familiar with this, that Meta AI researchers have created no language left behind. That's something that you're familiar with. And effort to develop high quality machine translation capabilities. And this is true for most of the world's languages. We built a single AI model. I'm really glad that Shri gave me an aid by invoking AI without so I want to kind of say that we built a single AI model called NLLP 200, which is no language left behind, which translates 200 different languages with state-of-the-art results. There are a large number of languages also in this model as well, and they provide high-quality translations for languages spoken by billions of people around the world. Now, it's also important for me to say back to Meta that this research advancement will support some 25 billion translations every day across Meta platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and all our other platforms as well. So this really is the bar of what languages can do, and when you have a good language model and you're able to see this, to do these translations, the opportunities that it unlocks for people all around the world of all ages. So that's kind of the one piece. I do want to also talk a little bit about Seamless M40, which is a foundational, multilingual and multi-task model that seamlessly translates and transcribes across speech and text. We've got that out. And a lot of our technologies, of course, are open source as well. We're seeing that a lot of human developers are building on it. And some of the early results that we are seeing have been very, very promising. And that's been another focus that a lot of this is open source. And we're allowing a lot of the open source work that we're doing to reach the hands of Indian students, Indian academics, developers, and what have you. Briefly, because I think the focus is also on education, I want to talk about some of the education work that we are doing. And in the presence of Sir, of course, we had entered into a partnership with the Ministry of Education for both CBSE and AICTE. And for CBSE, the one part of the curriculum that we are doing is on digital safety skills online, which we are consciously make sure that it's available in English and Hindi. We're ready to scale in 2024 to at least 2 to 3 other languages. And the idea is to really enhance that and make sure that the curriculum on that is available to more and more students in their chosen language, in their native language. Like Professor Bhattacharyya said, very often challenged us on when we talk about languages. Are there enough data sets available? Are we able to train our models swiftly? That is a challenge, and I think that is what the world really has grappled with over the last many years with AI, and I think the advancements that are being made very, very rapidly, a lot of that is changing. There's also the entire phases of Metaverse program with the AICTE that we have, and we're well on target to achieve those numbers as well. And one absolutely critical piece whenever we discuss where we are in our implementation has been languages and how can we kind of make sure that this is going to the last mile, that this is truly being democratized in that fashion. With your permission, please allow me for another minute. I'll just take a minute to just talk about how we look at languages at Meta. A lot of the programs that we roll out, for example, we've done something recently on empowering small entrepreneurs with CAPE, which is a confederation of all India traders. Again, we made sure that all the training was available in multiple Indian languages. I think there are upwards of 7 or 8 languages in which we make sure that the trainings are available. And the idea is constantly to scale and make sure that, from 7 to 11 and so on and so forth. Similarly, when we did in this year of India G20 presidency, where with the Ministry of Electronics and IT did an online safety campaign, again making sure that all the content of how you can keep yourself safe on platforms, how to keep yourself safe from fraud, what are the basic safety measures, were available in nine languages, and we're working to make sure that we're able to scale that as well. But this just shows quite a remarkable journey of what Sir was saying, how initially it was fingertips in their chosen language. So I think that really is where a lot of our focus has been. So a lot of our programs we are constantly thinking through what are the various languages that we can add, and we are constantly, even in all our programs, trying to make sure that we have covered that what the width and breadth. But of course, there is a long way to go. So we acknowledge that, but this is kind of at the heart of it. We realize that when we talk about making an inclusive internet, that is not going to be possible if people have access to information in their language, and that is being our constant endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, I mean, most of us who work in the government, we are always worried about inclusivity. Am I being able to reach out to just about everyone? So, when you talk about access, I think access of internet and access of device, these are two other things we are constantly being challenged. And internet needs to become inclusive. But then, even if you have all the technology and all the wherewithal to be able to do things, are we in a position that everyone can access this? And in fact, all my colleagues who are here, we are all very little worried about the fact that how do I provide a device to every child? Because that's the way you are going to access whatever is available. And there's a very strong gender component to it, because the boy still might get the phone, but the device, but the girl may not get it. So these are serious issues which we are grappling with. But thank you, Natasha ji, for giving from perspective of Meta and what Meta is doing. In fact, just 10 days back, the CBSE has signed a MOU with Meta as well as AICTE. And based on our learning of CBSE working with Meta, eventually we would try and encourage other state school boards also to come forward and take this to their state. Now I'm going to ask our third colleague, Professor N. Kishorjit Singh, who's from IIIT Manipur, to share his views more so in the context of what we've been talking about.
Thank you, sir. Respected Sanjay sir, respected Professor Pushpak, Madam Natasha, delegates, invitees, and all the participants over here. A very warm good afternoon. I would like to talk a little bit in the line of hardware, software, in terms of language technology, or in the process of teaching and learning process. So let me start with one thing, because the basic thing of learning is book only. So what we have, what the problem we are having at the present is that all the children's, we as a parent find it difficult seeing them taking loads on their back. We have heavy books with them, and every time there is a talk on that. And now, not only that, the children's are adapt using mobiles. We generally used to have a debate on this, like how should we stop child watching the mobile or something like that. Why don't we take this as an advantage now? Because the child has adapted looking at the mobile. Now, my point is that why don't we just condense all the book in some tablet where all the books will be stored digitally, and then reading of book will be condensed to a device which we usually use know as tablet. So we don't need to carry all the books at a time. A tablet will be sufficient for a child to just take it to the school. Maybe, of course, we may have notebooks and all for the practice purpose. Of course, and another way is we can also use the same tablet for the practice session also. There is one aspect where we can transform, because the future we are looking is the virtual one. So apart from that, we have a lot of advantage when we just take it to the tablet or we transform it to tablet. Because we are talking about the climate changes and all. And we have been cutting down the trees and all in order for the manufacturing of papers and all. If once transform it into what you call as the tablet sort of learning, then we don't need, I mean, there will be drastic reduce in the cutting down of trees also. Not only that, we'll have another advantage here where the course content can be, what to say, have video visualization system there itself. Because in the book, it's a pen, it's a plain paper sort of thing. Where when we started learning things in the tablet, the content of the book can be narrated in some form of videos also. Where this can just help the student to understand or visualize the thing properly. There is one point. And apart from this, as we are talking about AI, we can sometimes, we are in a position to impose AI also here, where we can just see the, process of learning by the children. There is one more aspect from there in the, if we have transformed learning from book to the tablet. Another thing is like, we are talking about the multilingual sort of thing. That also can be infused very easily. Because the book which we are going to learn, or the children is going, the child is going to learn, will have multi-mode, or otherwise there will be multiple language which he or she can select of his or her choice. There is one more aspect. Now coming to the, another advantage is there. If we want to have a live lecture somewhere from other part of the country by some expert, we can just make it visualize, or otherwise they can just join, live also there. Yes, the question is there like, how you're going to have an internet system. I think much of you, or otherwise much of us, especially those who are in university level and higher education, they come across the National Knowledge Network, NKN, which provides the internet facility to these universities and higher educations. Why don't we expand this scheme at the level of the school? Once if we expand this infrastructure, because infrastructure is already there when we talk about NKN. So if we expand this process to the school level, then it's a dedicated internet facility given to these universities and higher educational institutes. So if we expand this system at the level of the school, then there won't be any problem of internet also. So once internet is set, then the one which I was talking about, tablet and all, will again be a successful one. So there is another point. And then the third point, which I want to suggest, is that we are talking about Swayam in much of the educational, higher educational learning process. So and again, I found like Diksha and all is also there in the school level, where we can find the content of the school in terms of videos and all. But the difference here is that Swayam used to run in terms of with some credit sort of thing, or audit sort of thing. If suppose the Diksha also runs parallelly in that concept, then the student will have more interest because they are going to earn some audit or credit course on that. So Diksha, if we just expand, or otherwise, if suppose we change the scheme, at least in terms of that Swayam course, then again, that will be another beneficiary sort of thing. And we are talking about the learning process, not only by the student, also by the teachers. So from time to time, we can also manage some sort of training program, a compulsory training program for the teachers also, so that they can update their knowledge. So that can be done online also again. So that is another point. Apart from this, I would like to suggest another point, like what we call as ABC, Academic Bank of Credits. This is generally happen to the universities and higher educational institutes. So what about just extended the same thing at the level of school also. What will be the advantage of is this, that, I mean, we have just come to the idea of new education policy, where we can just transfer from one, institute to another institute at any level of time. And of course, we can just carry over the credit also. So the same process, the same thing, if we have just extended to the school level, then that will be another good point. So what happened is, like, digitally, you are already enrolled in the digital world, where your marks and all, or your any form of certificates will be uploaded in that credit bank. So anytime when you want to transfer from one institute to another institute, or from one school to another school, that will be another good thing. So this is another thing. And then coming to the library, which is one of the most important thing. I have found, like, there is a national digital library. So as Pushpak sir was talking about machine translation and all, nowadays it's almost coming to reality of changing or otherwise translating one language to another language. So once we have a digital library, and if we have the right to just translate automatically, then it will be another good example of having a national digital library in multilingual platform. In whichever language the book is written, we can just translate automatically, and we'll get a new form of book which will be translated to another language. So that is another advantage when we have National Digital Library, where we have an option of translating one language to another. Last but not the least, I would like to suggest few more things talking about the BHASHA, because there are few tools which we can just adopt, where, say for example, when you have multiple script and all, we can just go for the tool of transliteration, where one script can be just go to another script. There is one more big advantage there. Then we can just go for optical character recognition also, where the digitized form of book in the form of image can again be transformed into the textual form. Once you get it into textual form, again, it will be easy for the machine translation to just translate to some other language. So that is another important tool which we can just collaborate with all those research institutes which people have already worked on it. So that is another, a tool which we can just use when we talk about the translation of one language to another language, technically. Not only this, we can also use, as Pushpak sir was talking about, WordNet. Because in India, the focus is generally taken on only on those languages which are on 8th schedule. But the thing here is that I think it is also necessary to go to the ground level, or otherwise, like, say for example, in my state, Manipur, we have 35 tribes and 35 languages or otherwise dialects. So what happened is, like, the government has accepted around, or otherwise adopted around some 18 dialects or language. Yes, of course, Manipuri being the main language, the other 35 language is also important, and the government has given a norm that the other 18 recognized language can also be taken as an elective or otherwise MIL subject when when he or she wants to write in the board exam. So since, like, WordNet is a very important tool, we can again go down at that level also, creating tools at the level of, or otherwise at the local level or the state level. This is maybe, like, this is not the case only for Manipur. I hope, like, much of the northeastern states will have multiple languages, not only the in the Manipur, but maybe in other states also. So the government, I would like request the government not only to initiate only for the scheduled language, but also to go down to the level of all those languages which are already accepted by the state. So these are the few things I can just suggest as of now, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Now what, we are going to structure it this way, that we now will be opening to the floor. So you may like to ask your question. You may introduce yourself and the institution where you come from and the person whom you would like to respond to your question. And after we've had a few rounds of questions, then I would ask the panelists to sum up more so in the context of the kind of questions which have come up before I request Professor Pushpak to finally sum it up. So, okay. So, can we have a question from there? Can someone take a mic, please? And we request you to kindly make it short and precise.
मेरा नाम सत्यकाम है। मैं इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय से मेरा सवाल प्रोफेसर भट्टाचार्य।
आपके माइक नहीं काम कर रहा है।
हेलो हेलो
Yes.
मैं बोलता हूँ। हेलो जी, धन्यवाद। मैं प्रोफेसर भट्टाचार्य जी से ये सवाल करना चाहता हूँ। मेरा नाम सत्यकाम है और मैं इंदिरा गांधी राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विश्वविद्यालय से आया हूँ। अनुवाद करते समय कई कठिनाइयाँ होती हैं और मुझे ये लगता है कि अनुवाद कोई अनुकृति नहीं है बल्कि एक क्रिएटिव काम है। तो आपकी जो भाषणी है वो भाषणी अनुवाद को कितना क्रिएटिव बनाती है और कितना मैकेनिकल रखती है, इसके बारे में मुझे जानना था।
Okay, thank you, Satyakam ji, for asking a very, very relevant question. So, it is known that translation is a creative task. There is enormous amount of literature on translatability, human translation, and now machine translation. Now, it is because of the mechanical nature of machine translation that human translators have often been put off. That, okay, kuch kaam ka nahi hai, machine translation will never capture the spirit. They use the word spirit. Now, important thing to note is that translation is also a practical need. Okay, Dr. Vinit Chaitanya, Rajiv Sangal ji, they often used to say that just facilitate information access. Okay, what is contained in the source sentence, then let now your mind and brain operate on whatever meaning you have extracted and create the meaning. So the translation can be done at many different levels, starting from information access to completely creative translation. Now we do see poetry written by ChatGPT. Poetry translation is not an easy task because you have to maintain the rhythm, the sentiment, the flow of thought, and so on. But this is also a falling barrier, I think. It will happen. So in Bhashini, the translation that we produce are very practice-oriented. Their goal is practical. In 10 languages, which we are part of, we would like to make information access possible. Okay? So now a question that will arise is that in the education domain, won't the students get put off? Won't they get bored? Our study with Ichal Karanji Engineering College is that students can reconstruct the meaning having given access to the information. So that barrier should be crossed, and then this. So you have a very valid point. Creativity later, but now practical need.
Thank you, Professor Pushpak. Yes, please.
तिलकराज रेलन मुख्य संपादक युग दर्पण मीडिया समूह। मिस्टर सिंह से मैं पूछना चाह रहा हूँ आपने बोला कि हमारे प्रदेश के अंदर 35 भाषाएं हैं। अब 35 भाषाओं में यदि हम कोई भी किसी भी विषय का टेक्स्ट अगर लेना चाहेंगे तो उसके बजाय हम उसको, क्योंकि भाषा अभी वो जिला स्तर के ऊपर अगर रहेगी तो उसमें उतना कम हो जाएगा और उसका जो है लाभ अधिक मिल पाएगा। तो इसको हम बजाय प्रदेश स्तर के ऊपर मान्यता के उसको हम जिला स्तर के ऊपर मान्यता की यदि बात रखें तो वो अधिक उपयुक्त रहेगा। नमस्कार।
पीछे से कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ रहा है। I think it's all getting restricted to the front two rows.
सर नमस्ते। सर मैं श्री लाल बहादुर शास्त्री राष्ट्रीय संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालय से मैं शोध छात्र हूँ। मेरा नाम विश्वभूषण मिश्रा है। जैसे कि हमारे दर्शन में हो या आध्यात्मिक जो है वैदिक भाषाएं जो हैं उसको कैसे अपने आंचलिक माने जो प्रदेश जो हैं वहाँ पे कैसे उसको प्रयोग हम उसको माने गांव में उसको हम पहुंचा सकते हैं। अपने जो आंचलिक भाषा जो है वहाँ पर हमारे जो शास्त्र जो हैं उसको हम कैसे पहुंचा सकते हैं टेक्नोलॉजी की भाषा में।
I'm sure the panelists have taken note of your question. So once they put up their final comments, they will try and answer your question. Let's pick up more questions, please.
Yeah, I'm Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan. Professor Pushpak mentioned our project Udan some time back in his summary. Now my specific question is to Dr. Sanjay. Unless for making Bharatiya Bhasha's technology scale, we need academia to do research. Bhashini is a very great example. We need the government support, which is happening, and we need startups. Now, has there been an initiative to actually bring Indian startups on board to promote? Mr. Ganesh Arnal, our Udan work got technology license to them. They are running this Bharat Bhasha Tech. How can government work with Indian startups is a very crucial question for the Indian startups.
Thank you.
Hi, sir, here at the top. Hi.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm Dr. Shagun Sinha. I'm an assistant professor of Sanskrit, and I've been a Sanskrit NLP researcher at JNU. My question concerns all the three panelists. Anyone could pick it up. In terms of training language technology tools, how do you deal with copyright around the data sets? And then, of course, the availability of data sets in general in Indian languages. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we take a few more questions, please?
Here. My name is Chandresh, and I'm a faculty in the CSE department at IIT Indore. So I see that Bhasini is collecting a lot of crowdsourced data, right? So do you plan to make it publicly available so that any researcher can come and download and use it? Thank you.
My name is Shashidhar. I am from NITK Suratkal, working in computer science department. Any panelists can take this question. So once we talk about ChatGPT and machine translation, we need to have base data. Say for example, Kannada to Bengali translation. Maybe some 3-4 translations we may get. With that, we cannot go for machine translation, which is very difficult. So initially, we need to have some exercise where this translation work is given to experts. At least some 100, 200 books if we have, then we can do the things next. It's my observation. Thank you.
Can we
Sir,
have
good
somebody?
afternoon.
Can we have somebody from this row, please?
Sir, good afternoon. This is Hema Natarajan from SRM University. I'm a professor. Of course, translation requires some sort of creativity. Keep aside all humanities subject. But when you happen to convert any physics, chemistry, and mathematical content in the desired language, how far the terminologies is possible? Translating the technical terms, scientific terms in a desired language is comfortably possible, because once you translate the content in the desired language, the students should have the comfortability in reading. And another one, this is for Kishore sir. Converting all the contents in digital is fine. what would happen to children's eye? And we are living in an age to reduce the screen timing. Of course, preservation of environment is good, not at the cost of children's health.
Thank you. I think they'll all start wearing glasses like me. Go ahead, please.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Banipreet Kaur, research scholar from University School of Education.
Please speak into the mic.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Banipreet Kaur, research scholar from University School of Education, Guru Gobind Singh Intrust University. My questions are like, how would we deal with, while mingling the technology with Bharatiya Bhasha, how would we deal with the privacy issues and ethical concerns like biasness, which comes with, such kind of technologies? Like when we are translating something from English to Indian languages, will there be any biasness? How would we, tackle these challenges? And second thing is that how would we make it, trending in the younger generation? Like, this, like today's time, if we see that Instagram, Snapchat, these are the trending technologies. Students are not going towards, they are, when they take your mobile, they will, ask you first thing that, do you have Instagram, do you have Snapchat? So how will you make it trending among them that they will actually use it with their own consent, not with the pressure of the teachers or from school or from the educational policies? That's what my concern is. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
We will take two. This is the second last question. After this, we'll take one more. Please go ahead.
सर नमस्कार. मैं केंद्रीय विद्यालय एडुकेशन का टीचर हूँ और हिंदी पढ़ाता हूँ, भाषा से संबंधित हूँ. मैंने बहुत दिनों से देखा है कि जो अनुवाद करते हैं, जिस भी तकनीक से अनुवाद करते हैं, हम करते क्या है कि सबसे क्लिष्ट शब्द को उठाते हैं. और हमें भी कई बार, हम स्नातक हैं, परास्नातक हैं, डॉक्टर्स हैं, हमें फॉर्म पढ़ने में परेशानी हो जाती है सर. हम ढंग से फॉर्म को नहीं समझ सकते. अगर मेरे को दिया जाए कि आप केंद्रीय विद्यालय के प्राचार्य पद के लिए आवेदन कर रहे हैं और अगर पूरे प्राचार्य के आवेदन को हिंदी में हम पढ़ते हैं तो हमें कई बार उलझ जाते हैं. तो हम जब अनुवाद कर रहे हैं तो उसमें सबसे सरल शब्दों का चयन क्यों नहीं करते? आप भी उठा कर देख लीजिए, कभी कहीं भी एग्जाम्पल मिल जाएगा आपको कि सबसे क्लिष्ट शब्द का अगर हमारे 5 शब्द हैं, 5 अर्थ है एक शब्द के लिए, तो हम सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल शब्द को उठाते हैं, उसका अनुवाद कर देते हैं. तो आप कोई भी इसमें से जवाब दे सकता है आप में से.
ये आपने बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण मुद्दा उठाया है और मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि इस पर हम लोग कोई जवाब दें. मैं एक क्वेश्चन और लेना चाहूँगा बिफोर आई आस्क माय को-पैनलिस्ट टू रिस्पॉन्ड.
Good afternoon, honorable panelists. I'm Kavita Asnani. I come from the Higher Education Council, Directorate of Higher Education, Goa. And we, under the project Dishtavo, we have a portal where we have undergraduate courses for 8 disciplines already made available. The e-content is made available for open access with over 20,000 videos. And we have created this in English. My question is, we do want this content to be made available in Konkani language, and we have tried couple of tools, but nothing has worked, and we have started this entire process with the entire cycle being done manually in Konkani language. So can this be helped out with the technology? Recommendations, please.
Thank you.
सर, एक सवाल अगर आप कहें तो मैं रखना चाहूँगा. मैं शुरू से बात कह रहा हूँ. 25 साल से हम केवल ट्रांसलेशन टूल की बात कर रहे हैं, 98 से हम. मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ, आपने कही कि भाषा टेक्नोलॉजी के माध्यम से अंतिम आदमी तक पहुँचने की बात. जितनी हमारी पब्लिक फेस स्कीम्स हैं, प्रधानमंत्री आवास योजना से लेकर बात करें, पेंशन योजनाओं की बात करें, किसानों की बात करें, आधार कार्ड की बात करें, जितने भी टूल्स हैं, थ्रू वेबसाइट, थ्रू टूल्स, थ्रू ऐप, सब के सब अंग्रेजी में हैं. अगर भारतीय भाषा में है तो वो काम करते नहीं हैं. आम आदमी तक टेक्नोलॉजी का कोई लाभ पहुंच नहीं रहा है. हम कब तक अनुवाद की बात करेंगे सर? मुझे बताइए, सारे के सारे काम एक गरीब आदमी को ट्रांसलेशन टूल नहीं चाहिए सर. उसको ऐप के माध्यम से, वेबसाइट के माध्यम से हिंदी में काम करने के लिए चाहिए. और नॉट ओनली इन हिंदी, मल्टीलिंगुअल ऑल ओवर द कंट्री. लेकिन हम आज तक वहां नहीं पहुंचे हैं. मैं सबसे जवाब जानना चाहता हूं. नंबर 2, जितने बैंक हमारे हैं, जितनी पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनियां हैं, प्राइवेट और गवर्नमेंट वो ERP सॉल्यूशन पे काम करती हैं, CBS पे काम करती हैं, 100% इंग्लिश में है सर, हिंदी में कैसे होगा? मैं पिछले 15 साल से बात उठा रहा हूं मैं, लेकिन सब टेक्नोलॉजिस्ट जो है दाएं बाएं कर देते हैं, उसकी बात नहीं होती है। आप मुझे बताइए कौन सी कंपनी का सॉल्यूशन हिंदी में है? सभी पेट्रोलियम कंपनियां, सभी बैंक, सब इंश्योरेंस कंपनियां ERP सॉल्यूशन पे काम कर रही हैं। या तो वो हिंदी में है नहीं, और हिंदी में है तो केवल एक कंप्लायंस के लिए तो दिखा देंगे। एक और बात पर मैं आ रहा हूं सर, बहुत तीसरी बहुत जरूरी बात है। भारत सरकार के तमाम अधिकारी मंत्रालय बैठे हुए हैं। गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की सभी वेबसाइट इंग्लिश में खुलती हैं। एक डब्बा बना होता है कि हिंदी का ऑप्शन अवेलेबल है, हम हिंदी वाले में जाते हैं, वहां सिर्फ डब्बे हैं, डब्बा अंदर खाली है। लेट मी कंप्लीट सर, लेट मी कंप्लीट 1 सेकंड मोर। मेरा टेक्निकल क्वेश्चन है, जो मैंने राजभाषा विभाग का, मैं पूर्व उपनिदेशक हूं और मैं शिक्षा संस्कृत उत्थान न्यास की तरफ से आया हूं। मैंने हमारे डायरेक्टर टेक्निकल से पूछा, सर ये जो वेबसाइट है ये डिग्लॉट बाइलिंगुअल क्यों नहीं बन सकती? बोले बन सकती हैं, बनाना नहीं चाहते हैं। बनाना नहीं चाहते हैं क्योंकि फिर उसमें पता लगेगा हिंदी में कुछ है ही नहीं। तो मेरा ये कहना है, जब तक ये 3 काम नहीं होंगे, भारतीय भाषाओं की प्रौद्योगिकी का ये सम्मेलन 15-20 साल से चला आ रहा है, चलता रहेगा। हम कल भी वहीं खड़े थे, हम आज भी यही खड़े हैं। धन्यवाद।
हेलो। आपके ऑब्जर्वेशन के लिए बहुत सबसे ज़्यादा तालियां और आप बजी हैं, और जाहिर सी बात है कि आपने सबके दिल को छू लिया है, इसलिए लोगों ने इस बात को कहा है। मैं भी मजाक में आपसे यही कहना चाहता हूं कि कभी कभी लोग बोलते हैं कि थिंक आउट द बॉक्स, तो जब मेन बॉक्स खोला तो देखा खाली पड़ा हुआ है। तो ऐसी बातें होती हैं, और भाषा पर कभी होता है, आई डोंट नो। मैं जब नौकरी में आया था 90 में, तो एक भारत सरकार की एक स्कीम चलती है, इंटीग्रेटेड रूरल डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम, IRDP। तो हमने उसके फॉर्म को देखा, जिससे हम 8,000 से 10,000 रुपए तक का लोन जो BPL फैमिली हुआ करते थे उनके सदस्यों को देते थे। उसकी भाषा इतनी क्लिष्ट थी कि यदि कोई MA पास आदमी उसको पहली बार पढ़ के उसको यदि भर लेता तो हैट्स ऑफ टू हिम, नहीं हो पाता था। और लेकिन कभी कभी इस तरह की मुश्किलातें, इस तरह की गलतियां हो जाती हैं। थैंक यू फॉर पॉइंटिंग इट आउट। आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क माई को पैनलिस्ट टू broadly respond to the kind of questions which have been raised. So I would request Natasha ji.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone, for very well thought out and lovely questions. And thank you, sir. I think there are a few areas where we can see where industry could definitely collaborate. So I'll just focus very briefly on those. One, I think there was a question on startups and how they can be impacted. And I think that what we can say is a lot of what the work that we are doing is open source. And again, the idea of it being open source is that the Indian ecosystem, the academics, researchers, developers should be able to build on top of it. And I think that that is an opportunity for India's entrepreneurs and the startup ecosystem as well. There's also been a question again on last mile, and we're constantly thinking about that. That's where, say, something like one of our platforms like WhatsApp does come into play. WhatsApp chatbot, for example, is available in 11 regional languages, constantly looking to scale more. But that last mile and is kind of, that is the app that we are leaning on to do a lot of that last mile delivery, especially in local languages, in language of your choice. That's another piece. I do want to acknowledge that someone would say about translation, and it is one of the most exciting areas in AI. Again, AI would be, as well, of course, an area that everyone is talking about, and it's really in the center of a lot of attention. And that is because of its impact on people's everyday lives. The No Language Left Behind is not just an opportunity to give people better access to content online. It is an opportunity for people to share information and to contribute to the thought process, to contribute in the engagement that is happening. So it's a lot more. That is why we are excited about it. Our massively multilingual speech AI researcher models can identify more than 40,000, 4,000 spoken languages, 40 times more than any known previous technology. So I think that everyone's playing their part, and at least on languages, the focus is, courtesy AI now, really squarely on languages and what is the value that we can drive to make sure that everyone is a part of it and it is really truly inclusive in every sense of the word. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha ji. Now may I request Dr. Singh.
Hello.
Thank you, sir. I would like to suggest, or otherwise come to the point where ma'am was suggesting about the eyesight and all. Madam, if I tell you very frankly, there cannot be always an advantage in every side. There must be some plus point and negative. And of course, if I'm not sure, I should say, like, I'm almost sure that your son or daughter will be almost stick with the mobile for almost some hours or few hours. So what I want to say is, like, generally, this is going to be the future. Because every time, everywhere, whatever content we are talking about, we are just trying to adapt with the changes of what we call as AI and internet. So after a few years, this is going to be the reality. And another point is that looking at the biological factor like eyesight problem and all, we can just go for some research work. Of course, people are doing on all these things also. I mean, the radiation and all, which is produced by all these devices, are trying to reduce, I mean, or otherwise it's being reduced drastically also, comparing to the one which was having few years back. So maybe like in coming future, we can have, so I mean, those monitors, which can be, I mean, almost like a negligible, giving negligible effect to the eye. So I think that may come up again, maybe in the near future. So we don't need to just, I mean, worried about that. Then I heard someone talking about reaching up to the rural areas. That was what my point is. Because I was talking about all the narratives because I would like to see those people in the remote areas assessing all this technology. Unless we start something, they are not going to be that much effective in all those rural areas or otherwise remote areas. So that's the reason I was stretching about the NKN program and all. That National Knowledge Network is one of the finest projects taken up by the Education Ministry of Education to provide internet for the universities and higher education. So if this can be extended to the school level, then I am suppose that this will be very much effective and this will be a very game changer for the rural teaching learning process. And someone was mentioning about the startup also. In the whole process of designing all these things, starting from the hardware to the software, the government can have a policy, and I suppose like the present government has a policy to involve startup in maximum cases. So I suppose like the involvement of startup will be very much applicable here in any of this, in the whole process which we have been talking about. And sir was mentioning about the way how the government is applying about the languages and all. But sir, I tell you one thing, something is better than nothing. So I think like कोई website पे तो हिंदी में लिखा हुआ होगा, वो भी तो एक नया शुरुआत है. कौन जाने, like after some time, all the website will be coming with Hindi again. And this is what the government is doing. Thank you, everyone.
Now I would request Professor Pushpak to sum it up from the technology point of view and how technology can be integrated to make Bharatiya Bhasha accessible to all?
सर एक क्वेश्चन था मेरा.
Hello. Yeah.
जी सर, थैंक यू.
So I have this very unenviable task of summarizing. Okay. So I'll first would like to observe that Sanjay ji talked about a very important point: how to make all operations language agnostic. Okay. Let there be no language barrier at all. And we know that this is possible mainly through machine translation technology. But large language models like ChatGPT, BERT, they are opening up possibilities which are exciting. Natasha ji talked about the impact of NLLB. So when NLLB came, the whole community was really excited that here is a multilingual system. And we had Muril from Google, Indic Bart from AI for Bharat. And then we have Indian language word nets, which are navigational tools from one language to another. We have Uran, which is a pipeline of many things together. So, these are important developments. So I'd like to just touch upon Professor's comment, which generated a lot of excitement in the in the hall, and many of them are so true. But we have one complaint, academia. The complaint is that the society really was never prepared to tolerate any mistake. Okay, you machine translate, and it has to be 100% correct, very beautiful, and so on. If you look at European machine translation effort, and then efforts in USA, there were gestation periods and learning periods, so very long learning periods. And funding agencies, people were tolerant of that. Okay, so we would like to have those kind of acceptance of our work. And one thing we also know that without industry and startup linkage, without working with them, it is impossible to build products. Product building is not academia's cup of tea. We would like to show the path, and industry startup, along with academia, should move. So this is one important point. Then Kishorjit mentioned a number of important systems from MOE, Swayam, National Digital Library, which are extremely important resources for data. Okay, and they should be explored thoroughly. My main point was that we have to take large language models seriously. People, machine learning model, data, and infrastructure, they have to be put in place. Okay, and foundational models have to be created. This we know from technology. What is the way forward? In my reading, the way forward, I'd like to be a little technical on this. The way forward is really taking whatever data you have in Indian languages and create language models. Okay, when we create language models, the parameters are set, and then you apply prompting, fine-tuning, and so on, and they're doing a very good job. Now, there are many languages in the country which do not enjoy the benefit of NLP. So they are the languages which are left out. We have to try things like zero-shot learning, few-shot learning, which are contributions from machine learning. So, I would also like to take up a point from Sanjay ji that complete language agnostic framework is possibly not possible, because we lose so much of color and diversity and interestingness of life. So take a phrase like XYZ is धोबी का गधा ना घाट का ना घर का. Okay, so this is a person who has no significant role to play anywhere. So translating such things are very difficult. Okay, and if you expect that they should produce very high quality translation in presence of these complexities, we know that they are difficult. But of course, it is becoming possible now because of the large language model. So with this, I'll end, and I'll thank for a very, very exciting and exhilarating discourse. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pushpak, Natasha ji, and Dr. Singh for this very fascinating conversation. And my thanks to the audience for being alive to the issues which have been raised in this discussion. And before I sum up, I would just want to say that, you know, I'm a great fan of Star Trek. और आप लोगों ने भी Star Trek को देखा होगा. And one of the character which really fascinates me is Dr. Spock. He's a Vulcan, and he would just touch the forehead of the other person to be able to read the mind. Maybe technology would enable us to do that in due course of time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
धन्यवाद। पुनः यहाँ पे अगले सत्र के लिए 4:15 पे हम लोग मिलेंगे, 4:15 पे। धन्यवाद।